Dr. Han-Jun straightened his white coat and took a deep breath. Today was an important day. After years of effort, the Galactic Medical Academy had finally opened a branch on Earth, and Jun was its first human teacher. "Nervous?" asked Park Mina, his friend and fellow doctor, as she walked beside him down the gleaming hallway. "A little," Jun admitted. "These students have never met a human before. They've only read about us in their textbooks, where we're described as resilient but primitive Deathworlders," Mina said with a small laugh. They reached the classroom door. Through the window, Jun could see his new students. 3 aliens, each from a different part of the galaxy, sat waiting. "Good luck," Mina said, giving his arm a squeeze. "Try not to scare them." Jun walked into the room with a smile. "Good morning. I'm Dr. Han-Jun, and I'll be your human physiology instructor." The 3 aliens stared at him. None of them spoke. Jun pointed to the jellyfish-like creature floating in a clear water tank on wheels. "You must be Clax from Aquaria." The jellyfish's body flashed with blue lights. "Yes, doctor. Forgive my surprise. I have never been so close to a Deathworlder before." Jun nodded and turned to the second student, who looked like a large insect with 4 arms and a hard shell. "And you're Ziv." "Correct." Ziv's voice came from a small box on his chest. "I am from Arthropos. I am here to learn your medical techniques, though they seem quite brutal from our studies." "And I," said the third alien, who looked like a swirl of purple gas inside a special suit, "am Milo of the Nebulites. I find humans fascinating but terrifying." Jun smiled. This was going better than he'd expected. At least they were talking to him. "Well, I'm glad you're all here. Today we'll start with a brief history of human medicine before we look at actual human physiology." He turned on the screen at the front of the room, showing a timeline of human medical history. As you can see, humans have been practicing medicine for thousands of years, but we've only had what we consider modern medicine for about 200 years. Clax's body flashed with yellow lights. "Is it true that humans used to cut each other open while the patient was still conscious?" "Yes," Jun said. "Before we discovered anesthesia, surgeries were performed while patients were awake. They were usually given alcohol or opium for pain." All 3 aliens moved back slightly in what Jun recognized as horror. "But that would kill most species," Ziv said, his 4 arms moving in agitation. "Humans are remarkably pain-tolerant," Jun explained. "It's one of many adaptations to our high-gravity, high-radiation, microbe-filled planet." He advanced to the next slide, showing modern surgical techniques. "Today, our methods are much more advanced, though I understand they still seem primitive to galactic standards." Milo's gas form swirled faster. "We've been taught that humans still physically cut into bodies instead of using molecular restructuring. Is this true?" "It is," Jun said. "We don't have the technology for molecular restructuring yet, but our surgical techniques save millions of lives every year." The aliens exchanged looks. "How can a species survive being cut open?" Clax asked. Jun smiled. "That's what you're here to learn. Human bodies are designed to take damage and recover. We bleed, but our blood clots. We break, but our bones heal. We get infected, but our immune system fights back." "It sounds horrible," Ziv said. "It can be," Jun agreed. "But it's also amazing what the human body can survive. By the end of your time here, I think you'll be surprised." The aliens didn't look convinced. "Tomorrow," Jun continued, "Dr. Park Mina will show you what humans can eat and drink. I suggest you prepare yourselves. It might shock you." As Jun gathered his things after class, he heard Milo whisper to the others, "Did we make a mistake coming to this death world?" Jun smiled to himself. They had no idea what they were about to learn about humans. "Good morning, students," Dr. Park Mina said with a bright smile. "Today we'll learn about human nutrition and biochemistry." The 3 alien students watched nervously as Mina set up several containers on the front table of the classroom. "Before we start," Mina said, "would anyone like some coffee?" She poured dark liquid from a pot into a cup and took a long drink. The aliens stared in horror. "What is that substance?" Klax's body flashed red lights of alarm inside his water tank. "Coffee," Mina said. "Most humans drink it every morning. It contains caffeine, which helps us wake up." Caffeine. Ziv's insect-like mandibles clicked rapidly. "But that's a neurotoxin. It's listed as a Class 3 poison in the Galactic Medical Index." Mina nodded. "Yes, in large amounts it would be toxic to humans too. But in small doses, it just speeds up our system a bit. You deliberately poison yourselves every morning." Milo's gaseous form swirled in confusion inside his containment suit. "We don't think of it that way," Mina laughed. "Now let's look at some other common foods humans enjoy." She opened the containers one by one. "This is chocolate, which contains theobromine. This is a hot pepper, containing capsaicin. And this is a bottle of wine, which contains alcohol." The aliens moved back from the table. "These are all toxins." Klax flashed bright orange. "Are you showing us human poisons?" "No," Mina said. "These are foods and drinks humans consume regularly. Some, like alcohol, for pleasure. Others, like hot peppers, for flavor." Ziv moved one of his 4 arms toward the pepper, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. "May I examine this?" "Careful," Mina warned. "The oils can be strong." But the warning came too late. Ziv touched the cut pepper with the sensitive tip of his arm. Instantly, he recoiled, making a high-pitched noise. "It burns." "Medical emergency," Ziv cried out, waving his arm wildly. Mina quickly grabbed a container of milk and poured it over Ziv's affected limb. "It's okay. Milk neutralizes capsaicin." "You knew it could cause pain?" Milo asked in shock. "Of course," Mina said. "That's why many humans like it. The burning sensation releases endorphins in our brains." "You eat things because they cause pain." Klax's entire body had gone pale. Mina nodded. "Human children often challenge each other to eat the spiciest peppers they can find. It's a game for them." The aliens were silent, trying to process this information. "But why would evolution allow this?" Klax finally asked. "Why would humans develop to consume toxins?" Mina thought for a moment. "Our planet has many dangerous things. Over time, we adapted to handle small amounts of these substances. Some even became useful to us." "Like what?" Milo asked. "Alcohol kills harmful microbes. Capsaicin can reduce pain when used correctly. Caffeine helps us stay alert when we need to. So humans turned poisons into tools," Ziv said, still nursing his burned limb. "Exactly," Mina said with a smile. "What would kill other species, we've learned to use." She pulled out one more container. "Now, who wants to try some ice cream? It's cold, sweet, and completely safe for all of you." The aliens looked at the new container with suspicion. "What toxins does it contain?" Klax asked. "None that would affect you," Mina promised. "Though it does have a lot of sugar." "Is sugar dangerous to humans?" Milo asked. "In large amounts over time, yes," Mina admitted. "It can cause disease." "But you eat it anyway?" Ziv was confused. "Because it tastes good," Mina said. "Humans often choose pleasure now over safety later." As the aliens cautiously tried the ice cream, Klax's body lit up with blue and green lights of realization. "I have a theory," the jellyfish-like alien said. "Humans aren't just surviving on a death world. You've evolved to become living detoxification systems. Your entire bodies are designed to process poisons." Mina laughed. "That's an interesting way to look at it. And wait until you see what happens when we get injured." Today, we will learn about human emergency medicine. Dr. Han Jun announced to his 3 alien students. "This is Kim Sung, our physical training instructor. He will help demonstrate how humans respond to injury. Sung was tall and strong, with a friendly smile. Hello, everyone. Don't worry, I'm used to this. The aliens looked at each other nervously. They had moved to a special training room with medical equipment all around. What exactly will you demonstrate? Klax asked, his jellyfish body pulsing with concerned yellow lights. Nothing too extreme, Jun assured them. Just some basic first aid for common injuries. Sung began setting up a piece of equipment that looked like a climbing wall. We'll start with a simple fall scenario. Humans often break bones from falling and... There was a loud crack. One of the metal supports holding the wall broke suddenly. The entire structure began to tip over. Look out, Jun shouted. Sung tried to jump away, but he wasn't fast enough. The heavy wall crashed down, pinning him underneath. There was a sickening sound of breaking bones and a cry of pain. Emergency, Jun called out, rushing forward. Mina, get the trauma team. The alien students froze in shock. Blood was spreading on the floor around Sung. His leg was twisted at a terrible angle, and his breathing was rapid and shallow. Is he dying? Milo's gaseous form spun in distress. Not if we act quickly, Jun said, already checking Sung's vital signs. Come here, all of you. This is now a real emergency lesson. The aliens moved forward hesitantly. But he's bleeding so much, Ziv said, his insect eyes fixed on the growing red pool. For my species, losing that much blood would mean certain death. Humans have more blood than you might think, Jun said. He was cutting away Sung's pants leg to expose the injury. And our bodies can make more quickly. The trauma team arrived with a stretcher and equipment. Mina was with them, already putting on gloves. Multiple fractures, right leg and pelvis, Jun reported. Possible internal bleeding. Blood pressure dropping. On it, Mina said. She turned to the aliens. You three, help or step back, but don't just stand there. Surprisingly, Klax moved forward first. I can help. My species is good at detecting electrical changes. I might be able to monitor his heart function. Good, Mina said. Ziv, with your 4 arms, you can help us move him to the stretcher when we're ready. Milo, your suit has medical scanners, right? Use them to check for internal bleeding. The aliens, though terrified, followed instructions. They watched in amazement as the human doctors worked quickly, inserting needles into Sung's arms to replace lost fluids, giving him oxygen, and stabilizing his broken bones. His blood pressure is still falling, Klax reported, his body flashing red with alarm. He's going into shock, Jun said. We need to get him to surgery now. As they lifted Sung onto the stretcher, his eyes fluttered open. Despite his terrible injuries, he was conscious. Sorry about the demonstration, he mumbled. Got a bit carried away. Save your strength, Mina told him. The aliens couldn't believe what they were seeing. By their medical knowledge, Sung should be dead. His injuries were severe enough to kill any of their species instantly. How is he still alive? Milo asked as they rushed Sung toward the operating room. His bone is sticking through his skin. He's lost at least 2 liters of blood. His organs are damaged. Humans are tough, Jun said simply. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Our bodies are designed to keep us alive through almost anything. But he will die soon, yes? Ziv asked, trying to understand. Jun shook his head. Not if we have anything to say about it. You're about to see what human emergency medicine can really do. As they pushed through the doors into the operating room, the aliens began to realize they were witnessing something extraordinary. The remarkable resilience of human life in the face of what should have been certain death. The operating room doors swung open. The 3 alien students were given special clean suits and told to stand against the wall. Watch and learn, Dr. Jun said as he scrubbed his hands. This is human emergency surgery. The aliens watched as Sung was prepared. Machines beeped, showing his heart rate and blood pressure. Nurses cut away his clothes and cleaned the blood from his skin. Beginning anesthesia, Dr. Minna announced, placing a mask over Sung's face. He'll be unconscious soon. You put him to sleep? Ziv asked, his forearms twitching nervously. Is that safe with such injuries? Safer than operating while he's awake, Jun replied. Though humans have survived that too, when necessary. Once Sung was fully unconscious, the surgery began. Jun picked up a scalpel and made a long cut near Sung's broken leg. Klax's jellyfish body pulsed with shock. You're cutting him open with a metal blade. Yes, Jun said calmly. We need to set the bone properly and fix the damaged blood vessels. The aliens watched in horror as Jun and Minna worked inside Sung's body. They used metal tools to move tissue, stop bleeding, and repair damage. When they reached the broken bone, they pulled the pieces back into place with their hands. This is barbaric, Milo whispered, his gas form swirling rapidly in distress. It may seem that way, Minna said without looking up, but it works. We've been doing surgeries like this for hundreds of years. Jun held up a metal rod and several screws. Now we'll stabilize the bone with these. You're putting metal inside him. Ziv couldn't believe what he was seeing. Won't his body reject it? These are special metals compatible with human tissue, Jun explained. They'll stay inside him forever, or until we remove them later. The surgery continued for 2 more hours. The doctors fixed Sung's broken pelvis, stopped his internal bleeding, and closed all the cuts they had made with tiny threads. Now we wait, Jun said when they finished. His body will do the rest. How long until he? Klax couldn't finish the sentence. Dies? Jun asked. He's not going to die. His vital signs are already improving. The aliens looked at the monitors. It was true. Sung's heart rate was steady, and his blood pressure was rising to normal levels. But how is this possible? Milo asked. You cut him open. You put foreign objects in his body. He lost so much blood. Let me show you something, Minna said. She pulled up a scan of Sung's leg on a screen. Look here. His body is already responding. Blood clots have formed to stop the bleeding. White blood cells are moving to the injury site to prevent infection. Within days, new bone cells will begin to grow. Your species can regrow bone. Klax's body flashed with blue lights of amazement. Yes, Jun said. Slowly, but yes. Human healing is remarkable in many ways. But he lost so much blood. Ziv said, still trying to understand. At least 30% of his total volume, by my calculation. That's about right, Minna agreed. Humans can lose up to 30% of their blood and survive with proper treatment. We're replacing what he lost with donated blood from other humans. Klax's body suddenly went pale, and the alien began to sink in his water tank. Klax is fainting, Milo reported. Get him some sugar water, Jun instructed a nurse. The concept of blood donation might be too much for him right now. When Klax recovered, the aliens were taken to a waiting room, while Sung was moved to intensive care. Now what happens? Ziv asked. We monitor him closely for the next 48 hours, Jun explained. That's the critical period. If infection or complications develop, we'll treat them. And if all goes well? Milo asked. Then he begins the long process of recovery, Jun said. It will take months for him to fully heal. Months, the aliens said together. Yes, Jun nodded. You'll see. By this time tomorrow, he'll be awake and talking. Within a week, he'll start physical therapy. Humans don't just survive. We recover. The aliens looked at each other. They didn't believe it was possible, but they decided to stay and watch, certain they would witness Sung's decline. Instead, they were about to learn another surprising lesson about human resilience. 2 weeks had passed since Sung's terrible accident. The alien students had taken turns watching him day and night, certain that he would die despite what the human doctor said. But he didn't die. Instead, something even more surprising happened. Good morning, everyone. Sung called out cheerfully as the aliens entered his hospital room. The aliens stopped in the doorway, shocked. Sung was sitting up in bed, eating breakfast. His color was good, and he was smiling. The monitors showed normal vital signs. "This is impossible," Ziv said, his insect mandibles clicking rapidly in confusion. "You should be dead." "I get that a lot." Sung laughed. "But humans are tough. We bounce back." A woman in a blue uniform walked in. "Ready for your session, Mr. Kim." "Students, this is Lee Hanna, my physical therapist," Sung explained. "She's going to help me walk again." "Walk?" Klax's body flashed with disbelief. "Your leg bone was broken in 3 places just 2 weeks ago, and now it's healing," Hanna said matter-of-factly. "Time to start using it again, or the muscles will get weak." The aliens watched in amazement as Hanna helped Sung move to the edge of the bed. She supported him as he stood on his good leg, then carefully put a little weight on his injured one. "Doesn't that hurt?" Milo asked, his gas form swirling with concern. "Sure it does," Sung admitted, "but pain is just information. It tells me how far I can push." "Pain is information." Ziv seemed confused by the concept. "For humans, yes," Hanna explained. "Pain warns us of damage, but we can work through it when necessary." Sung knows the difference between healing pain and injury pain. For the next hour, the aliens observed the therapy session. Hanna helped Sung perform small movements with his injured leg, stretch his healing muscles, and even take a few steps with a walker. "This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen," Klax said. "On my world, if someone is injured this badly, they either die or must be kept completely still until healing is complete. Complete rest would actually be bad for humans," Hanna explained. "Our bodies heal better with careful movement. It stimulates blood flow and helps the tissues repair correctly." When the session was over, Sung was tired but pleased with his progress. As Hanna helped him back to bed, he joked, "This isn't even my worst injury, you know." "What do you mean?" Milo asked. "Oh, I've had lots of injuries in my life," Sung said casually. "Broke both arms rock climbing when I was 20. Had a concussion from a bike accident at 25. Appendix removed at 30. The aliens looked at each other in disbelief. "You've had multiple life-threatening injuries?" Ziv asked. "And survived them all?" "Most humans have some injury stories," Sung shrugged. "We're fragile in some ways, but we heal remarkably well." After leaving Sung's room, Milo pulled up his datapad. "I want to check something," he told the others. He accessed the medical database and looked up Sung's records. He wasn't exaggerating. Milo said in shock, "Look at his medical history. All those injuries he mentioned are documented here, plus surgeries, illnesses, and treatments that would kill most species. How can one body endure so much damage over a lifetime?" Klax wondered. "It doesn't make scientific sense." "Maybe that's why humans advanced so quickly as a species," Ziv suggested. "They can survive things that will eliminate most life forms. They learn from each injury and keep going." As they discussed this new information, Dr. June found them in the hallway. "I see you're starting to understand what makes humans special," he said with a smile. "We're not the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy, but we might be the hardest to kill. And the most determined to live," Milo added, beginning to feel a new respect for these strange Deathworlders. "Exactly," June agreed. "Now, who wants to learn about human immune systems? That's another remarkable story of survival." The aliens followed June, eager to learn more about the species that could endure what should have killed them. Alarms blared throughout the medical academy. Red lights flashed in the hallways. The alien students looked up from their studies in confusion. "What's happening?" Klax asked, his jellyfish body pulsing with anxiety. Dr. June rushed into the classroom, his face serious. "There's been a major accident at the spaceport. Multiple injured, both humans and aliens. All medical staff and students are needed immediately." "Us." Milo's gas form swirled nervously. But we're not trained for emergency medicine. You've learned enough to help, Joan said firmly. Sometimes we must use what we know, even if we don't feel ready. They hurried to the emergency area. It was chaos. Injured people were being brought in on stretchers. Doctors and nurses ran between beds. The air filled with sounds of pain and urgent orders. A cargo ship's gravity generator exploded, Minna explained as she gave the aliens medical kits. We have 23 patients so far, 9 aliens and 14 humans. What should we do? Ziv asked, his forearms trembling slightly. Ziv, go with Nurse Kim. Help treat the Arthropians. There are 3 injured. You understand their biology better than we do, Joan directed. Klax, we need your help with fluid replacement therapy for the aquatic species. Milo, your suit can detect gas imbalances. Help with the respiratory cases. The aliens hesitated, then moved to their assigned areas. They were scared, but they knew people needed help. Ziv found himself beside a young Arthropian child with burns on 2 of her arms. Nurse Kim was trying to help, but the child was terrified. I don't know the right pain medication dosage for her species, Nurse Kim admitted. Ziv stepped forward. I can help. He spoke to the child in their shared language, explaining what would happen. Then he turned to Nurse Kim. Human pain medication will work, but use half the normal dose. And apply the burn gel more thickly. Our exoskeletons absorb it differently. Across the room, Klax was working with an Aquarian patient who had lost too much fluid. We can use human blood plasma as a base, he told Dr. Mena. Add these minerals, and it will work as a temporary replacement. Minna looked surprised. How did you know that? I study human blood transfusion techniques, Klax admitted. I thought if humans could survive losing so much blood, maybe their methods could help my people too. Meanwhile, Milo discovered that the breathing masks designed for humans could be modified for most gaseous species. The problem isn't the oxygen, he explained to a respiratory therapist. It's the pressure. Adjust it like this, and it works for everyone. As the emergency continued, the alien students found themselves applying what they had learned about human medicine in ways they never expected. Human techniques, once considered primitive and brutal, now saved lives of many species. A young human girl was brought in with a crushed arm. The alien students watched as Jum quickly examined her. Her arm can't be saved, he said grimly. We need to amputate. Amputate. Ziv was shocked. Remove the limb completely. Yes, Jones said as he prepared for surgery, but she'll live. And someday, she'll have a prosthetic arm, almost as good as the original. On my world, such an injury would be the end of a useful life, Ziv said quietly. Not here, Jun replied. Humans have always lost parts of themselves, to accidents, disease, or war. We've learned to rebuild, to adapt, to continue. Hours later, when the emergency was finally under control, the exhausted alien students gathered in the break room. They were tired but proud of what they had accomplished. I saved 3 patients using modified human techniques, Klax said with glowing blue lights of satisfaction. I helped 5, Milo added. The human child with the amputated arm, she was awake after surgery, Ziv said in wonder. She asked when she could go home. How is that possible? That's humans for you, Minna said as she joined them. What should kill us often just makes us stronger. The alien students looked at each other, realizing how much their view of human medicine had changed. What once seemed primitive now appeared ingenious, born from necessity on a world that constantly tried to kill its inhabitants. A month had passed since the spaceport emergency. The alien students had changed. They no longer flinched when they saw human medical procedures. They had started to see the logic behind what once seemed barbaric. One morning, Dr. Jun called them to a meeting room. A stern-looking man sat at the table with several data pads in front of him. This is Professor Choi Da. Jun introduced him. He's the Academy's research director. He's here to discuss your final dissertations. The aliens looked nervous. They had been so busy learning that they hadn't thought much about their final research projects. Each of you must complete an original research paper before you finish your time here, Professor Choi explained. It should explore something you've learned about human medicine that could benefit your own species. The aliens looked at each other. They had learned so much. What should they focus on? I'd like to study human blood replacement techniques, Clax said, his body glowing with soft blue light. During the emergency, I saw how human methods could be adapted for Aquarians. Professor Choi made notes on his datapad. Interesting. And you, Ziv? Human pain management fascinates me, the Arthropian answered. My species feels pain very intensely, and we have few ways to control it. But humans have developed many methods to reduce suffering. Good, Professor Choi nodded. And Milo? The human immune system, Milo said, his gas form swirling with excitement. It's remarkably adaptive. I want to study how it fights off pathogens, and if similar approaches could work for gaseous species. Professor Choi looked at their proposals for a long moment. Then he set down his datapad and leaned forward. These are all fine technical topics, he said, but they miss something essential about human medicine, something deeper. The aliens waited, confused. I want you to go beyond the technical aspects, Professor Choi continued. Don't just study how human medicine works. Study why humans practice medicine the way they do. What do you mean? Clax asked. Why do humans fight so hard to save every life? Professor Choi asked. Why develop treatments for rare diseases that affect only a handful of people? Why do human doctors work until they collapse to save a stranger? The aliens were silent, considering these questions. There's a philosophy behind human medicine, Professor Choi said. A set of values and beliefs that drives our medical practices. That's what I want you to explore in your dissertations. After the meeting, the alien students discussed their new challenge. How do we research human medical philosophy? Ziv wondered. It's not something we can measure in a lab. Maybe we need to talk to more humans, Milo suggested. Not just doctors, but patients too. And families of patients, Clax added, to understand why they fight so hard for their loved ones. Over the next few weeks, the aliens conducted interviews. They spoke with doctors about why they chose medicine as a career. They talked with patients about their will to survive. They listened to families describe waiting through long surgeries, hoping for good news. One day, they visited Sung, who was now walking with a cane and continuing his recovery. Why did you fight so hard to heal? Milo asked him. You could have retired on disability benefits. Sung looked surprised by the question. Because I can still contribute. I can still help others. My life isn't over just because I was injured. Is that a common human attitude? Clax asked. Very common. Sung nodded. Humans don't give up easily. Not on ourselves, and not on each other. As they left Sung's home, Zid said thoughtfully, I think I'm beginning to understand. Human medicine isn't just about techniques and technology. It's about believing recovery is possible, even when it seems impossible. And about valuing every life, Milo added, no matter how damaged or different. And about fighting death with everything you have, Clax concluded, because humans see death as an enemy to be defeated, not just an inevitable end. The aliens realized their dissertations would be much more complex than they had first imagined. They weren't just studying medicine. They were studying what it meant to be human. The day of the dissertation presentations arrived. The main lecture hall of the Academy was filled with important visitors. Members of the Galactic Medical Council sat in the front row, their different alien forms making a colorful sight. They had traveled to Earth specifically to evaluate whether the human branch should continue operating. Dr. Jun looked nervous as he welcomed everyone. Today, our first class of alien students will present what they've learned about human medicine, he announced. Their findings may surprise you. Clax went first. His water tank was decorated with Earth symbols as a sign of respect. His jellyfish body glowed with confident blue light. When I first arrived on Earth, I thought human medicine was primitive and brutal, Klax began. Now I understand it is actually brilliant adaptation to life on a death world. Klax showed videos of human emergency techniques alongside his adaptations for other species. My research proves that human emergency methods can be modified to work for 82% of galactic species. This is not despite their simplicity, but because of it. The council members leaned forward, clearly interested. But more important than the techniques, Klax continued, is the human belief that every patient deserves the same effort, regardless of status or wealth or age. This value system drives their medical progress. Next came Ziv. The Arthropian stood tall, his forearms moving gracefully as he spoke. I study human pain management, Ziv explained. Humans experience pain as intensely as any species, but they have developed remarkable ways to work through it. Ziv presented his new unified theory of pain management based on human neural responses. Humans don't just try to block pain, he said. They reframe it as information that helps healing. This approach can revolutionize medicine for many species, including my own. As Ziv finished, several council members were taking notes. They had not expected to learn anything useful from primitive humans. Milo floated to the front, his gas form contained in his special suit. My dissertation explores the human immune system, he said. It is constantly fighting battles against millions of microbes that would kill most species instantly. Milo showed microscopic videos of human white blood cells attacking bacteria. By studying how humans live in harmony with some microbes while fighting others, I've developed a treatment for nebula wasting disease, which has plagued my people for centuries. This announcement caused excited murmurs among the council. A cure for nebula wasting disease was a significant achievement. But my most important discovery, Milo added, is that human medical philosophy, never giving up, always seeking new solutions, was as crucial to my breakthrough as their biological information. The final speaker was a surprise. Kim Sung walked slowly to the front, using only a small cane for support. The same Sung who, just months ago, had been crushed under heavy equipment with multiple broken bones and internal bleeding. I am not a doctor or a scientist, Sung said simply. I am just a patient. But in human medicine, patients are also teachers. Sung showed his own medical scans from the day of his accident, then recent ones showing the healed bones and tissues. The alien students watched my recovery with disbelief. They were certain I would die. But human bodies and human spirits are designed to survive. He smiled at the three alien students. They learned that what should kill you often doesn't, if you're human or if you're treated by human methods. As Sung finished speaking, the lecture hall filled with applause. Even the council members were clapping with their various appendages. Dr. Jum stepped forward, his face proud. As you can see, the exchange of medical knowledge benefits everyone. Our differences make us stronger when we learn from each other. The head of the council stood up. It was clear from the way the others reacted that this was unusual. We came to evaluate whether this program should continue, she said. After today's presentations, I believe it must expand. The galaxy needs what human medicine can teach us. 6 months had passed since the presentations. The Academy courtyard was decorated with flags from Earth and the home worlds of all the students. It was graduation day. Dr. June stood proudly as the 3 alien students received their medical certificates. Each wore a special Earth medical symbol alongside their own species emblem. You have done more than complete your studies, June told them during the ceremony. You have built a bridge between human medicine and galactic healing practices. After the formal ceremony, Klax, Ziv, and Milo met with June in his office one last time. The room was filled with small gifts they had brought from their home worlds, tokens of appreciation for their teacher. So, what will you do now? June asked them. Klax's jellyfish body glowed with excited purple and blue lights. I'm establishing the first trauma center for Aquarians, he explained, based on human emergency medicine models. Nothing like it has ever existed on my world. My people have always feared injury because of the pain, Ziv said, his insect mandibles clicking softly. I'm going to change that. I've already started training Arthropian doctors in human rehabilitation techniques. Milo's gas form swirled with pride inside his suit. The Nebula Science Institute has invited me to join their research team. They want me to apply human immune concepts to gaseous species. My treatment for nebula wasting disease is already helping hundreds. June smiled, truly touched by how far they had come. When you first arrived, you thought human medicine was barbaric. We didn't understand, Milo said. We saw the cutting and the blood and the pain. We didn't see the purpose behind it. Or the results, Klax added. The survival rates for conditions that kill most species instantly. Or the philosophy, Ziv said. The belief that everyone deserves a chance to heal, no matter how damaged they seem. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Park Minna poked her head in. Sorry to disturb you, but there's an emergency coming in. Multiple vehicle accident on the highway. Without hesitation, the alien students stood up. We can help, they said together. June looked surprised. But it's your graduation day. You don't have to. We want to, Klax interrupted. One more lesson before we go. They followed Mina to the emergency department, which was already preparing for the incoming patients. As they put on medical gowns, they noticed a new group of alien students watching from the doorway, their eyes wide with horror at the equipment being prepared. Is that a bone saw? One of them asked, looking ready to faint. That's the new class, Minna explained. They just arrived yesterday. They think we're barbarians, just like you did. Klax, Ziv, and Milo exchanged knowing looks. They remembered how shocked they had once been by human medicine. You'll understand soon, Milo called to the new students. What looks like brutality is actually the most remarkable adaptation in the galaxy. Before the new students could respond, the emergency doors burst open. Paramedics rushed in with the first patients. Doctors called out injuries and vital signs. The organized chaos of human emergency medicine began. The graduating aliens moved confidently to help, now comfortable with the blood and pain and urgency that had once horrified them. They worked alongside their human colleagues, their different bodies and abilities creating a perfect team. Later, as they prepared to board their ships home, the three friends made a promise to meet yearly on Earth to share their progress. Humans taught us more than medicine, Klax said. They taught us that different doesn't mean wrong. And that what should kill you doesn't have to, Ziv added. And that sometimes, Milo finished, the species you fear the most has the most to teach you. As their ships lifted off, heading to different corners of the galaxy, each carried with them not just knowledge of human medicine, but a deep respect for the Dithworlders who had turned their hostile planet into an advantage, creating medical practices that could now help all species live longer, healthier lives.